going to get a preview, only a preview of a $5 million home. This home is currently under construction, so the entire video will be coming soon. But for now, we will have to just do with a preview. Let me go ahead and disclose that the thumbnail is a little bit of clickbait. So for those of you that are expecting to see this entire home, I don't want to fool you. I'm getting ready to show it. But this will not be an entire video about this home. Instead, I'm going to speak with you. This is what I have always done with my channel. Primarily just me and you and me speaking. This is how ASMR reality started. And I just recently started doing the real estate videos, and I did a couple car videos, and they have done really well, and a lot of you are brand new. I don't want to deceive you, so I'm telling you up front, this is what I'm going to do. So this will be more traditional after we do the preview. So let's go ahead and do the preview, and then we can carry on with the rest of the video. This is the home. This thing is gigantic, about 10,000 square feet. It has a flat roof. It looks very modern, almost looks like a school or like a library. This is by Eaton Builders, and this is a guy that owns a logistics company, and he's got a lot of money. And he bought a house that was already here and tore it down so that he could build this home. And I'm going to do a quick scan of the area so that you can see this home looks nothing like the other homes in the area. The other homes nearby are all traditional. They're still very nice homes, and this is a very nice upscale area, but the homes in this area are very traditional especially compared to his. I don't know that he has made a very wise decision when it comes to trying to sell this home down the road, because it just doesn't fit in the area. But we live in a free country, and he's allowed to do it, and this is what he decided to do. I didn't pull all the way back there because it was rainy today, and it's muddy back there. So that's it. But I promise you, I know the guy, and I'm going to get a tour of this home when it's completed. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 months down the road before it's ready. But it should look very different by the time I do the next video on it, so stay tuned for that. In preparation for what I want to talk to you about, I want to scroll through a couple of comments because this is the topic that I want to talk to you about today. So let me read a few comments for you from the comment section from my last video. I'm not going to say any names. I'm just going to read the comment. I live in Ireland, and $100,000 wouldn't even get you a 2-bedroom apartment in most parts of Ireland. The prices here are insane. You should show what 2.5 million buys in Vancouver, British Columbia. Nothing like the place you just shown. It's a wild world there. I live in Canada, and a house like this in my town of 40,000 people would be around 500 to 600,000. No joke. Wow, great information. In my home state of Massachusetts, the average home is currently at $629,000. I love my state, but it's crazy how expensive it's gotten. I've watched a few of your videos now, and you now have a friend in Sweden. I'm a guy with high goals, a corporate job, small kids, and soon in my 40s. I love investing, reading up on new opportunities, and your videos are so genuine and you present as is. It's awesome. That one I shouldn't have read, but I thought it was talking about price. Wow, I wish $130,000 could get me that in Midlands of England, in the Midlands of England. Think we can guarantee that everyone watching this is not making $24,000 a year. This isn't taking into account utilities and grocery bills. No point having a nice house if you're hungry and cold in it. Watching from the UK, so still interesting to see. 24,000 is about 18,000 pounds here. Although I'm lucky enough to be earning more than that, I know there are many people who don't. Many people are forced to rent, which then makes it very difficult to save a down payment to buy. Let me just get a couple more in here for you. I get a lot of comments now, so I have to scroll through. I will say that thank you to all of you because about 99% of all the comments I get are good. Almost there. Let me just get a couple more here. This would probably list for around $350,000 in Canada where I live. This is on the $130,000 home that I showed. You are about right. You are right about Vancouver. It's tough out here. That exact house and lot size you showed would be approaching 2 million Canadian dollars or $1.5 million in Vancouver. That's for a house that costs $130,000 here. So we're talking 10 times, over 10 times more in Vancouver, Canada. That is incredible. It is only $130,000 for what seems to be around 2,000 square feet. It wasn't quite that big. I understand the differences in pricing between big cities and rural areas, but I just can't understand why 1,000 square feet is an average of $500 to $6,000 in my city of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada again. This one said, would be cool to do a video on houses for sale around the world or something. That was a great recommendation. And I definitely think I will do that. I'll share my screen and we'll look at houses in other countries. Eventually. Not tonight. So the purpose of wanting to read through a few of those for you was because what is the common theme? The common theme is it's not affordable where other people are. Now, I think many things are relative. For example, for example, in Victoria, British Columbia, 10 times the value. However, what do you think the restaurant workers are making? Do you think they're making more than they make here? Of course, they're making more money. Now, are they making 10 times more? Probably not. But I know that in New York or in LA, Los Angeles, California, the jobs that pay $20 an hour here typically pay $40 there, or at least $35 an hour there. So there's some relative, but still the property values are more than double. So I certainly understand that there are areas of the world, and not just America, where buying a home is much more challenging, and I tried to disclose that in my previous video. I mentioned several areas that prices are way higher than they are here. And I do sympathize with it. I do. I honestly do. And I also understand that it's challenging to leave home. It's challenging to leave what you know to try to have a better life somewhere else. But I use America as an example because America is the USA, the United States of America. There is a reason that we are not just America. America is not just one big blob of land. We are divided into 50 separate states, and things are different. Each state is very different. Geographically, some have the ocean, some don't. Some have snow, some don't. Some have mountains, some don't. Our laws are different in some states. Some states things are legal that aren't. Marijuana is legal in some states, illegal in some. Other things, I don't even want to say the word, starts with a P. Like Las Vegas has that legal. It's just, this is the way it was supposed to be. You know, sometimes you have to leave to get what you want. And so, I just don't want, for those of you out there, I want you to at least keep an open mind about traveling to find a better life. Because it exists. There are still places you can go that are safe havens, where it's not ridiculous, where things are peaceful. Life is still good. There are still places to go where freedom and prosperity abound. And it's not just in Indiana. I had one comment, one of the 1%ers commented on here about, sure, if you want to live in a shithole. But it's not a shithole here. It's actually pretty nice. Actually, his comment inspired me. I'm going to do an Indiana tour, and I'm going to do a video kind of showing you what it's like here, because, again, this is just one example, but there are many examples of areas throughout this country where prices are affordable, jobs are plentiful, and communities are safe, schools are good, people are nice. So, I'm just trying to spread a little bit of good news. That's really all I'm doing. I'm not trying to rub it in that things are cheap here and they're not where you are. Ha ha. That's not the purpose. The purpose is just to spread good news, to give you a little bit of good with all the bad that we get. Because we all know we get a lot of bad. And we get enough bad. We don't need any more. Now, I'm not saying that throughout the future of my channel, I won't talk about things that are bad. Likely, if I'm going to be ASMR reality, and I'm going to talk about reality, I'm going to have to include some bad in there. But one place in particular that I got the comments on more than anywhere in Canada. Canada is a small percentage of my viewership geographically, but in the comment section on that video, as far as high pricing, there were probably 3 to 4 times the comments on pricing from Canada than anywhere else in the world. And just from the few that I mentioned, we had Spain and England, several different states within America, but a lot of Canada. And I was just in the very top portion of my comment section. So as I scrolled through, there were many different other countries where people commented on that. Australia was one that I was surprised was high as well. But at the end of the are so many options out there. Where I live now is not where I was from, and I remember what it was like to move here. And it was uncomfortable, it was scary, but I knew I didn't want to live in my hometown anymore. I knew that my future there was limited. There is a saying that I heard a long time ago, and it's stuck with me. Big boats need deep water. Big boats need deep water. And so if you've got a mind, you've got your thoughts about your future, and you're trying to plan a future for yourself, and you know you are geographically in an area that is nearly impossible to get the life that you want, then you may have to go to somewhere else that has deeper water. Because a big boat in shallow water is just going to drag. It can't move. So think about that. I know it's a silly saying, but when you relate it to yourself, it's the same theory, that you have to go where you can thrive, where you can live a healthy life. And I know leaving is scary, but it's so possible. And in my line of work, in real estate, I get a lot of what's called relocation clients. And these are clients that get referred to me through my company. I'm self-employed, but my license is held with a brokerage. And in that brokerage, if you get a high enough performance level, you get qualified to take on relocation clients. And so, for example, on Thursday, I am going to pick up a man that is taking a job here, that is moving from Michigan. And I'm going to pick him up at his place of employment at 2 o'clock. He is right now in temporary housing. I am going to drive him around a couple different cities around here. I'm going to spend about 4 or 5 hours in the car with him, showing him like the highlights of the area. I'll probably take him through maybe 3 or 4 homes, maybe one home in each city that we visit, and just kind of show him the highlights of the city to try to give him a better idea of where do you want to live. And I get tons of these clients a year, and that's just for people moving here. Again, they're leaving areas that they cannot find opportunities, and they're going to where the opportunities exist. And unfortunately, in this world, it's becoming more and more common that that's what we have to do. And if you don't want to get trapped, you might have to at least expand your horizons to consider this, that maybe, just maybe, this needs to be an option for you. Because I read the comment about the guy that says, hey, I'm making 18,000 pounds a year. And he was basically saying, yeah, it's harder than you think. And that's where, again, I'm trying to let you guys know that I understand it's hard. For those of you that are new, I made several videos talking about my history of how I came up through poverty. And yes, it was a different time, but I promise you, it was hard. It was so hard. I mean, even today, I think about, I can't believe I made it. And some of the things that I did and some of the things I had to do, I don't know if I could do it again. I mean, if I lost it all today, could I do it again? I don't know if I can endure what I endured. It was that hard. But when you're younger, it's easier to endure those hard things. So I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get to here, that I understand, and I hope that you just don't take the things that I do, that you know that I have a good heart, and I care about all of you, and I do and say what I say because I want to help. want to maybe give you an idea that you didn't think about before. Let you know that there's hope. Let you know that there's a way, primarily because I'm just me. And I want you to be able to see me and say, well, if he can do it, I know I can do it. If it's possible for him, it's possible for me. And I would just say this. Yes, I did it in a different era. I'm 52, for those of you that don't know. So yes, I did it in a different time, but I did it without the internet. I did it without cell phones. I knew life without that, you know. And to be able to see all that, I do have a little bit different perspective. It's why, like when Facebook first came out, I got Facebook. I had Facebook. But I didn't have it very long, maybe 2 or 3 years, because I knew that it was detrimental to my well-being, because I wasted a bunch of time on it. It's why I never really played video games when I wanted video games when I was a kid. I begged my parents for them, but they were poor. They couldn't afford it. And so, but looking back now, I'm so glad I never got hooked on them. I never got to play them. And when I got to the point that I could afford them, I didn't want to spend the time being non-productive. Now, we live in a day and age where you can actually make $1 million a year playing video games. So if you're playing video games and you're damn good at it, maybe what you should do is focus on getting into competitions and focus on making money on them, or posting your videos on YouTube. I mean, people make money just posting their video games on YouTube, for God's sakes, you know, filming themselves playing video games. I mean, it shocks me. I don't watch them, but some people do. There's ASMR. The people do ASMR while they're playing video games. So these are the opportunities that I did not have. So my point is that I want to concede that yes, it was a different time, but there was also less opportunities. There was pretty much one way I could have done it. I had to have pretty much a trade job. I chose sales, and I just worked very, very hard. And I think today, I don't know what I would do if I was 18 again today. What would I do? I think when I look back, I think I would probably try to be a lawyer, because that's really what interests me a lot. I like detective stuff too, true crime stuff, but I also think about all these amazing opportunities out there that using digital ways to make money. So I just want you to keep an open mind. I just don't want you to lose hope. I want you to have faith in the future. I want you to have hope. That's really ultimately what I'm trying to give. So I hope that moving forward you will just know that my heart is pure. That when I give advice, I'm not belittling anybody. I'm not criticizing anybody. But I would just say, if you're in your mind, you're like saying, well, things are too expensive. I'm never going to buy a home. It's just negative talk. When you say to yourself, I'll never be able to buy a home, you're basically telling your brain is listening to you, whatever you say. It's negative self-talk, and it does affect the way you feel, and it does affect the way you behave. I heard a saying one time that says, you wouldn't talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself. And that's what you have to do. You have to treat yourself as if you're someone you love. And you have to treat yourself like you're someone you're responsible for. That's one of the 12 rules for life. Treat yourself as if you're someone you're responsible for. So imagine you are your own kid. What would you say to yourself? Would you say to your kid, okay to have reality. I want reality in your life. Not just me, but true reality. It's perfectly fine to say houses are unbelievably expensive where I live. That's a fact. And one day I will own a home, even though they're expensive. I will find a way. I will persevere. I will succeed. In spite of how challenging it appears, I am going to find a way. What's wrong with that? Because I'm telling you, the moment you allow your mind to have hope, the moment you allow positive emotions into your brain, your brain will go in there and it will start trying to find a way. So the best way you can do this is asking yourself questions, and positive questions. For example, how can I make more money? When I ask myself, when I just verbalize that, I can see my brain is starting to work. It's going to work. I have to shut it down to keep moving forward with this, but the questions don't always get answered immediately. I'll give you an example. Have you ever, was talking to somebody and you were explaining something and you forgot a word and you say, I can't think of it. Well, in that moment, you've just told your brain, I can't think of it. But if you say this, what is it? It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Guess what? You'll say 3 more sentences and then boom, that word will pop in your head. Why? Because you did not shut down the possibility of receiving it. It's in there. Think about old songs that you've heard from way back, and those words, they're in your brain. You can recite words to songs. I'll hear songs occasionally. I'll be in a restaurant, or I'll get in an elevator, or go in some sort of, I was in the tire store one day, and this song popped up, and I could visually see this girl that I dated when that song was popular. That's what our brains are, just massive hard drives full of data, and it is critical that we feed it good information. And they do work. Your brains are just a computer. Whatever you want to put in, it will give back. So again, you've got to ask the right questions. How can I make more money? How can I get my first house? What can I do? And just by asking that question, your brain is going to start feeding you information. Now, again, it may not be that very moment, but if you asked yourself right now, and then in 2 hours you lay down to go to bed, your brain is, you're going to have thoughts that you've never had before, feeding you back. It's the feedback loop that your brain is going to start saying, hey, maybe you should make a call to a mortgage guy or mortgage person. Where did that thought come from? That thought came from you asking yourself a question. How can I buy my first house? It can also influence your behavior. It can make you stop spending money on certain things. I got in a habit recently of buying Red Bulls for my open houses. So every time I would go to an open house, I would stop at the convenience store because I don't have Red Bulls at my house. I would go to a convenience store and buy a Red Bull before every open house because Red Bull gives you wings, I would go to my open house and I would be more energetic and bouncing off the walls and I would feel good. But that turned into saying, hey, you know what? Okay, the next day I don't have an open house, but I'm going to go show a home. Guess what? I'm going to, heck with it. I'm going to pull in and get me a Red Bull. Well, one thing led to another, and I started having Red Bulls every day to the point that I started buying them at the grocery store because they're so expensive at the convenience store. So I would buy them at the grocery store and have them in my refrigerator. And every time I would leave the house to go either to show a home or to go to a closing or to do anything, I was taking a Red Bull with me, so that on my way I was drinking a Red Bull. But I started correlating my performance with the Red Bull, like the Red Bull was the reason I was performing well. and I started like, it was like an addiction. And so I had to have a heart to heart with myself, because I know they're not good for you. And they're stupid expensive. Even if you buy them at the grocery store, though you save a little bit buying them on the shelf at the grocery store, they're still ridiculously expensive. And yes, I can afford them, but I don't need to be throwing money in the trash or just pissing it away, because that's what you do with Red Bull. Yeah, you get some immediate energy, but then you get the crash later too. So I just was tired of the extremes, up and downs. I pretty much liked myself before I started doing that. And so again, I just had to go back and tell myself, because thoughts started creeping in my head like, well, if I don't have the Red Bull, I'm not going to be as effective. But I'm like, wait a second. I did all this without Red Bull, right? And so I just had to have a better conversation with myself. Instead of telling myself I'm not going to be as good without Red Bull, I had to tell myself I can be just as good without Red Bull, and I am. And so, boom, just like that, I quit it. I just stopped. And that's what I mean about how we change our behaviors and how we change our state. You just have to have good conversations with yourself. You have to give yourself hope. And you can't lean on these excuses. You can't let the excuses bring you down. The excuses will kill your dreams. There's nothing worse for your lifelong dreams than excuses. Well, I'm short, or well, I'm fat, or well, I'm a woman, or well, I'm black. Don't stop. You cannot rely on those. You have to tell yourself, if you're black, tell me one black person that is successful. Did they use it as an excuse? Are there any, whatever field you're in, if you're a carpenter, are there any successful black carpenters? Yes, there are. Okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it. That's what you have to do. You can't, I gotta take the excuses away. I'm not going to use excuses anymore. I'm not going to lean on all the negativity that I used to lean on. I am going to succeed in spite of everything. Everything. And you've got to commit. And everything starts with a dream. You have to first, I believe, this is my belief, that if you want something, the very first step is extreme desire. You can call it a goal, you can call it a dream, but I call it extreme desire. If your desire is strong enough, that is what you need to start with. You have to start with that. Because everything is going to build from that desire. If you want it, you can get it. It's just that simple. Well, it's not simple, but starting off, it's that simple. You start off with the want, figuring out what do you want, and start wanting it bad. And then you ask yourself the questions, how can I get this? What is it that you want? Do you want a home? Do you want a Ferrari? Do you want a Lamborghini? Do you want to be retired? Do you want kids? Do you want a beautiful wife? Whatever you want, you have to start with that desire. And you ask yourself the right questions. How can I get it? How can I get a beautiful wife? How can I get an amazing family? How can I get my dream job? How can I get my dream home? And just listen. Listen to your brain will feed you answers. Some might be silly, but some will be good. And you have to listen. And also, the brain brain is funny like this, where again, when you're asking yourself, how can I get this? Well, now you're focused on it. And that tends to be what the law of attraction is. Whatever we focus on is what we get. It's why if you talk to race car drivers, they say they never look at the wall. They look at the road in front of them. They don't look at the wall, because if they look at the wall, they'll hit it. They move to where they are focused. And that's what our brains do. So if you're focused on how can I get my dream home, guess what you'll probably start doing? You'll probably start watching videos about buying a home, or you'll start looking at homes online. And just that different activity, you'll be looking at homes instead of scrolling doomsday stuff on Facebook or Instagram, or scrolling social media and seeing, oh, look what all they have and I don't have it, and bringing yourself down because you're comparing yourself to others. How can you get Pearl? Well, sorry, you can't have Pearl, but there are beautiful dogs just like her out there. You can have whatever you want. And that's what I wanted. In my mind, I wanted to be free. I was so poor growing up. All I wanted was to have enough money where I didn't have to work anymore. And I didn't want jets and mansions so big that I needed maids to clean them. I just wanted a decent life with enough money that I didn't have to work anymore. And I got it. I retired when I was 48, and I didn't have to work anymore. But what happened is I didn't work for 7 months and realized that wasn't really what I wanted. I just wasn't fulfilled. So I got my dream and realized that that wasn't really it. I just didn't want to work 80 hours a week anymore. That's really what it was. I was working 70, 80 hours a week, and it was just killing me. And that's why my dream was to be retired. My dream was to be retired from that job, which I left, and that took me to real estate. And now I do amazing work that I love, and I enjoy life, and I have a lot more free time, but I still am productive in society. So sometimes what you want isn't always, when you finally get it, you may realize that's not what it is, but you can always pivot, but you're gonna be in a better place than you are now, because that's really where I spent the bulk of my life. I never knew what I wanted to do for a living. I just knew I didn't want to be poor. But by focusing on not being poor, I'm not poor. I moved away from it. I focused on positivity and making money and becoming successful and being the best at whatever I did. I focused on my clients. I focused on things to stay positive and to stay out of trouble. And it worked, and I know it can work for you. So I want what is best for you. And I'm committed that on this channel I will give you the best advice I could possibly give from my heart, with nothing to gain. All I want out of the deal is a subscribe and a like. I don't want your money. I don't want to sell you anything. I don't want you to buy anything. That I'm not going to have a sponsor on here saying this channel is sponsored by blah blah blah. Nope. ASMR Reality don't take sponsors. I'm here for you. That's it. And me, selfishly, yes, I like doing this. I like helping people. That's what I get out of this. Whenever I read a comment where it says, Derek, you've helped me so much, boom, that's what I'm in this for. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you listening. I promise I'll fix my clickbait. Probably in about 3 or 4 months, I'll have this $5 million home walkthrough for you. And until then, I wish you the best. Talk to yourself nicely.